Welcome to the place where brains collide with science, wit, and a nerdy vibe. I'm Dr. Angel. Let's dive in where psychology meets a clever spin. Stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy.
It was just toast until it wasn't. Have you ever burned a piece of toast? Spilled your coffee, forgot your keys, and then you spent the rest of the day spiraling like, you're staring into a soap opera called Everything's Falling Apart. Yep, that's not just bad luck. That's your nervous system. It's waving a little burnt flag of overwhelm. Welcome to the burnt toast theory, where one tiny stressor sets the stage for a full-blown emotional landslide. Hey, welcome to Nerdy Psychology, where we turn brain science into something you can actually use on a Monday morning before caffeine. Hi, I'm Dr. Angel, a mental health professional, an anxiety decoder, and unapologetically a toast burner. If you're breaking down mental health in ways that are relatable, research-backed, and sprinkled with sarcasm, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join our wonderful, weird community of curious minds. Today, we're going to toast the idea that little things don't matter, because when you're already running on low battery, one burnt piece of toast might just short circuit our whole entire system. So let's talk about the burnt toast theory and why your brain actually makes a big deal out of small stuff. So what is burnt toast theory and why it resonates? It's the idea that small annoyances like spilling coffee, hitting a traffic jam, dropping your phone can feel disproportionately overwhelming. When your stress cup is already full to the max, why does this resonate so much? Because we've all had days when we're fine until we're not. That one moment that just tips the entire emotional scale. What's worse, we often criticize and judge ourselves for reacting too much, when in reality, we're reacting to the buildup, not the toast. I want you to hear that. Often we're reacting to the buildup, to everything that's under it, not the moment that sent the landslide into action. And I'll give you an example. A client once told me that she had a complete meltdown over running out of printer paper. But once we started kind of unpacking her week and what was going on in her life and what she was going through, she realized she had been holding on to a ton of stress from work deadlines. She had a sick pet. She wasn't able to get good sleep at night. And the paper, well, that was just the spark that lit it up. It was the trigger, not the cause. Or how about something like snapping at our spouse or a partner or a child because they just asked what's for dinner, or crying because our sock slipped into our shoe? It's not those events. It's everything underneath, everything behind that made our brain say, nope, we are done. Think of it like an iceberg. The one thing that activates it, the thing we can see, but what's really happening is all the things under the surface that we aren't consciously aware of, or we aren't putting together for ourselves. And our brain hits complete meltdown overload, and we may not even be aware of it. Microstressors and large emotional response. They're like paper cuts. Individually, they're no big deal. But pile them up and your nervous system, it starts to bleed. Things like a passive aggressive email or background noise or decision fatigue or even social media overload all chip away at our emotional bandwidth. And our emotional energy is a limited resource. We only have so much emotional energy. Think of it like your emotional energy bank account. It is finite, and we can only remove from it as much as we've deposited in it. And the way we spend our emotional bank account a lot of times are things that we may not even be aware that we're spending our emotional bank account on. And so they all these things start taking away and making withdrawals out of our emotional bank account. And then, it's that teeny tiny purchase that we go to make, emotionally speaking, where the payment gets bounced. That's what's happening to us. Our brain is tracking every transaction, every tiny disruption, every time we have to change a plan, every time something unexpected comes at us and we're not sure how to manage it. Our brain is keeping score of all of these things and adding it up, just like a general ledger. Let's take decision fatigue as an example. Have you ever just opened your fridge and just stared in your fridge and just stared with that blank stare? And you're just holding the door and you're just like, for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and then cried because you don't even know what to eat? That's not about food or dinner. It's about your brain being maxed out on having to make decisions all day long. Eventually, the tipping point isn't a trauma. It's a traffic light turning red when you're late, or a cue in the inner monologue saying, "Why can't I handle anything today?" Spoiler, spoiler, you are handling a lot. Your nervous system just has run out of its emotional bank account. I know we've talked about this reaction in so many videos, and we're probably going to talk about it in many, many more because it's such an important, vital aspect to how our body, how our brains take in the stressors of our life. But the fight, flight, freeze, fawn activation system is something that comes into play here. When microstressors, micro, that means small, stack up, they can flip our brain into a survival state, even when there's no threat, even when there's no real danger. That's that fight, flight, freeze, fawn system. It just gets activated. It's like the emergency alarm that's going off in your house when there isn't really an emergency. And I know we've all had that, where maybe we've cooked something a little extra, but there's no problem and the alarms are just wow, 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 all through the house. That's what's happening to our nervous system. This small thing that's completely controlled happens, but our emergency alarms are sending the signals, wah, 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 and they're sending the excitatories and all the hormones through our brain, and our brain is going into full gear. Here's what it looks like: snapping at your spouse because the dishes aren't done, or suddenly ghosting everyone because everything feels way too much, or staring at your to-do list like it's written in hieroglyphics, or even apologizing profusely for being so dramatic, for crying. These responses aren't irrational, they're neurological. Your amygdala thinks the burnt toast is like a saber-toothed tiger. It reacts accordingly. Another example, a student preps all week for an exam. They don't sleep, they skip meals. Then, when they're getting ready for their exam, they panic when their pencil breaks before starting the test. That's not an overreaction. That's the brain in full defense mode. Emotional regulation through a neuroscience lens. The good news is your brain can learn to reset. Having emotional regulation doesn't mean we do not have negative emotion. It means we have the tools to respond instead of react. We stay in that narrative. From a neuroscience perspective, regulation is about shifting out of that hijacked survival mode into a calm, connected state, that what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. One way to get there is through interoception. That's our brain's ability to notice the internal cues. Are you hungry? Are you tense? Are you holding your breath? Are you paying attention to those signals that your body gives you? Dr. Dan Siegel calls this name it to tame it. When we can label the emotions, it activates the prefrontal cortex, that advanced functioning part of our brain that helps to calm our emergency alarm system of our brain, that limbic system, the amygdala. So the translation in all of this is just the act of saying, I feel overwhelmed, literally depowers the overwhelm. Another helpful concept is the window of tolerance. And when we're inside our window of tolerance, which has a top, and we have this like window here, which is where we can handle what's happening in our space. And when we get outside that window of tolerance, we tend to start feeling those big emotions build up. But when we're inside that window, we feel in control. We can think clearly, we make good decisions, we can keep our emotions steady. But as soon as we step out of that window of tolerance, everything either feels numb or overwhelming. The goal of regulation is to stay inside our window of tolerance. That's what it means to be regulated. Some people have very small windows of tolerance, some of us have larger windows of tolerance, but the goal is for us to get inside that window of tolerance to help us regulate our nervous system. So let's toast to change, starting with some practical steps. Name your microstressor. Say it. Say them out loud. Write it down. Put it in a journal. Put it in a list. I'm frustrated because I overslept. I am frustrated because I just spilled coffee all over the floor. I am frustrated because I forgot my lunchbox. Or I'm mad at myself because I didn't do that thing I told the person I was going to do for them. Naming what we're experiencing gives us clarity. It gives us focus. And then we want to pause and reset with box breathing. I know we've talked about some of these breathing exercises before, but box breathing is real simple. It's where we take an inhale on 4. Think of a box, 4 equal sides. So we're going to inhale on 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And we want to just repeat that for a couple minutes. And that, what that is doing is it's shifting our nervous system. It's shifting our nervous system from reactive to regulated. So I want you to start tracking your burnt toast moments in some kind of log. If it's a journal, if it's a notepad that you keep on your phone, if it's whatever, however you like to track things, because I know there's so many ways we can track things. And if you're not the person who is a journaler, it's okay. You don't have to be. Just track it in some kind of way. And it can be a single word. It doesn't have to be this narrative sentence. It can be something that lets you know that I just had that moment. You could just put coffee for spilling that coffee, or you could write out the whole scene or experience for yourself. What works for you is what works. And then we're going to look at patterns. Do we notice we're having them more on Mondays, early in the morning, in the evening, maybe after a social event? What is there a time of day? Is there something happening? Like looking at what is the pattern? Because most of the time we will find those microstressors that kind of tip our scales happen on some kind of pattern. And awareness builds emotional intelligence. So the more we can be aware of what's happening in here, the more we can grow our emotional intelligence and give ourselves the space to handle it. We want to validate what we're going through. And I know that we are kind of in a culture that teaches us to minimize the little things and, oh, it's not that bad. It's no big deal. Why are you making such a big deal of this? Oh, you're being dramatic. Like we say that to ourselves. Like that's the language we will say to ourselves all the time. And we're minimizing our own experience. And so we need to validate. Yeah, that was frustrating to spill my coffee all over my outfit today before work. And I had to go change my clothes again. It's okay. Try saying, of course, I feel this way. I've got a lot on my plate, or I've been under pressure, or I have had to make a lot of decisions lately. Self validation, it rewires our brain. So instead of feeling shame, we feel compassion. And we need to give ourselves some compassion. Burnt toast moments don't mean you're weak. They just mean, guess what? You're welcoming yourself to the human race. You're human. And when you start honoring the small stuff, you start healing the big stuff. I'm going to say that one more time because I think we focus so much on the big things in life, the big experiences, the relationships, the betrayals, the traumas, and they are very important things in our life. And I don't want to minimize that. But so often we just wash over the little things because they don't count. And that's not helpful. That's hurting us. So when we start honoring and recognizing the small things in our world and our space, we start learning how to heal the big things in our space too. They go hand in hand. So, what's your latest burnt toast moment? I'll actually tell you my burnt toast moment. This week, I walked out my door 2 days. This happened to me this week and left my lunchbox at home and got to work and realized, oh my gosh, I have no lunch. And my little brain started to kind of spiral. And then I stopped and I'm like, I will just order something or I will just make something with some leftover stuff here. But we all have burnt toast moments. And what is yours? What's your latest moment? Drop it in the comments. I promise we won't judge. Let's build that space where our micro meltdowns get the compassion they deserve. If you've liked this episode, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss a moment of brainy brilliance and, well, emotional honesty. Until next time, stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy. See you next week.